little bit more of a business solutions company, necessarily more than a technology company. And that's where sort of this webinar kind of was birthed. And we want to be able to just connect with people in all their different arenas, all their different shops, if you will. Because one of the things that I do in our company is really meet with different people, networking and seeing their different arenas and figuring out, wow, all these people have all these great ideas and creativity and just neat ways of handling issues, but they're issues we all face. So we decided to start a webinar series to connect with those entrepreneurs, with those executives, with employees, and just share some ideas as we're going through this new normal. So what can you expect from us with this webinar? We are going to have informative discussions on relevant topics. We, of course, again, are a technology company. We are going to address some of the IT or the technical side of things that you might need to use in your business, because that's what we do. But we also want to address other issues that are relevant. So working from home, what are some good ways to do that? Because that's relevant right now. But we also wanted to connect with things like HR issues and telemedicine and marketing and just some things like that that really affect all of us. We are going to view these things from 10,000 feet. So what I mean by that is obviously we're not going to hit every detail of every subject that we talk about. But we want to be able to give enough information to you and give you places where you can go get more information if it's something you want to learn more about. We hope this is positive. We hope it's a little bit entertaining for you. And they are going to be weekly, every Thursday at 2 o'clock Central. Weekly right now. Then starting in June, we're going to go to a monthly webinar. So how can you join us? If you're with us today, you've obviously figured out that's at sublimecomp.com/shop talk with Sublime. But there's other ways to connect with us. We're on all the social media, Facebook, Twitter. We do have a YouTube, and we are going to be recording these sessions so that if you miss one and you want to watch that later, you'll be able to. So some of the topics we're going to talk about are here. You can see today we're going to be talking about collaboration platforms, but you can see some of our planned topics. And then if you've got suggestions for topics you'd like to talk about, or maybe you have expertise and you'd like to join us one time, we'd love that. Please let us know. So who are you listening to? Just to, like I said, I think I introduced myself. I hope I did. I'm Elizabeth Bell. My official title here is Vice President of Business Development, but just like within many organizations, I wear a lot of different hats. And I do a little bit of the marketing, some of the networking, newsletters, some of the back end kind of things. I also do client happies and client education, and those are really the fun parts of my job. I do a little bit of the employee happies and education as well. But my most important job is keeping our president and CEO in line, which luckily I'm married to him, so I can do that hopefully without getting fired. So Adam actually is our owner. He's the founder. He's the president of Sublime Computer Services. And so right now, Adam, just kind of introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us a little bit about you, what you like to do, and how you got this crazy idea of starting a company.
Well, thank you. Well, I graduated from college from Austin P out of Clarksville, and that was always a fun name for, let's go P. So that was and then hobbies. I have a lot of hobbies, but right now I seem to be focusing on spending my time down working on our farm and doing, lots of analog things where I'm not in front of the computer. Of course, play guitar, and I've got two lovely daughters that that we like being around, so that's fun. And of course, computers, and most of the time, and of course, computers. And then, that's kind of how I made a career in computers. Was I started when I was 8 playing games on the computers, and then I learned how to, manage them and do what I needed to do with them. So it just turned into a career and made a lot of sense. So now I help people with their computers. So
Yep.
and then I wanted to start a company because I really wanted to have more freedom to do with my time. I thought, running my own business, I'd be an entrepreneur. I'd set my own hours. I'd have lots of time on my hands, and yeah, that's not true. I work a whole lot harder for myself than I ever did for anybody else.
Work harder, but it is flexible and it is
Yes.
rewarding. So, well, so let's move on then. It's a little bit about us and who we are. So let's move on. Topic again for this week is Teams and Trello. And really, we just want to talk about how we can get together and how can we collaborate. So collaborate or collaboration, that's a word that we hear a lot. We've seen, heard in lots of different places. And the definition, official definition of collaborate, if you look in Merriam-Webster, it's a verb. It means to work jointly. Uh, and so working together really is the definition, in a nutshell of collaborate or collaboration. It's a little bit different from cooperation. Cooperation is seen sometimes more of, okay, you've got your lane, I've got my lane, let's kind of work side by side and we'll end up get this done. But with collaboration, it's a little bit different. Co-labor is in the word, right? So it really is more of an idea of working together, and doing that in a creative way and brainstorming together to come up with possible solutions and share possible solutions. And so it really is more, I guess, of a mindset, more of a synergistic type thing versus you do this, and I'll do this, and we'll meet at the end. Now, sometimes that's needed in different arenas, different businesses, different, sometimes in your family, you need to have people cooperate with you, not so much collaborate. So it just really depends, on the culture of the business or the arena that you're in, what the deadline is. Does somebody really, really need to be kind of cracking that whip kind of a thing versus, okay, let's figure out the best way to do this. I really was, when I was reading about this, it was kind of funny to me. I was reading someone had said, it's kind of like, giving an example of a collaborator and use the example from World War II. And I love historical fiction and I do love the World Wars. So it was funny to me that they were talking about Nazi collaborators and sympathizers, that they were collaborating, but just had picked the wrong side. And so I thought that was kind of an unusual take on it, but I have heard that used that way. But we hear it more now in, music, pop music. You've got collaborations with different artists coming together to make a really cool music video. You've got collaboration in business because you get joint venture partners and you work together to reach, either reach more people or have a bigger goal and kind of hit that target that you want to. So it definitely can be in a lot of different areas. Personally, you're going to collaborate with your friends or your family, your spouse. Socially, if you're in a volunteer organization or a church or something like that, or you collaborate, you've got a common goal that you're working for. Business, hopefully, if you're an executive or an entrepreneur, you've figured out where your target or what your goal is, and you're able to share that with your team so that they can all feel part of that getting to that goal. So we really are going to focus more on that business aspect of it today. And right now, there's a lot of options. There's a lot of choices when it comes to collaboration, and this is really in the forefront right now. These things, a lot of these applications have been around for a while, some of them for a really long time. But right now, because of the global pandemic and people working from home and working remotely, a lot of this collaboration is coming to the forefront because all of a sudden people can't have that, morning meeting down in the conference room to talk about their projects, and they can't pop into the office next door because they're stuck on a project. So all of a sudden people are thinking, oh my goodness, how are we going to keep track of what people are doing? How do we keep people on task? And so many of these collaboration platforms are getting a lot of publicity right now, and that's good. And so obviously, again, that 10,000 feet, we can't talk about all of these in one 30-40 minute session. So we have picked two of these. We're going to talk today about Trello and about Microsoft Teams and the benefits of both of those. And with that, I'm actually going to hand this off to Adam, and he's actually going to be he's going to talk a little bit more about this. Let me get him my screen over here, or have him be able to share. I've stopped mine. Can you?
Now you have to
There
make
we
me the
go.
host. There you go. All right.
Got it?
Got it.
Handing off the baton.
Okay. So now you guys should all see my Trello screen here. So these are both, we're going to talk about Trello, we're going to talk about Teams. They are collaboration suites. They are not the same. We did pick two different things, and there are plenty of competitors to Trello and Teams, but we just chose one, and so my intention is to really scratch the surface of what you could potentially do with these tools and how they could be useful to you. So who would use Trello? So Trello can be used by businesses or individuals. It was really, I would say they built it for business, but they wanted to be able to allow Trello specifically to go outside of the business walls, because it's really good for people who want to collaborate on a project or activity that they don't have a common platform where they could work. So a couple of examples of that would be, so nonprofits, so a nonprofit that needs to work with their vendors, or a nonprofit that needs to work with their volunteers, they don't have their own server for a big collaboration set, and they have to get everybody together. So all they really have to have is an email address, and then each person can create an email or can create an account in Trello, and then they can work together. So that would be one way. Family members, if you were going to plan a family vacation or a reunion, Trello would be a good tool for that. Mastermind groups. So my mastermind group, I've got a group of other CEOs that we get together, and we have a Trello board that we use to track our project and our time together. And none of us are on the same platform, but this allows us all to be under one uh, grouping and software. And of course, business projects from small, from just a 2 or 3 person group doing projects to the enterprise. There are a lot of big companies who use Trello for projects. I personally like Trello. I like it a lot because it's very visual and it's very colorful. And for me, I kind of learned that way a little bit better with visualization and the bright colors, and Trello fits right in there for me. So you just need to create an account, and you can go to Trello.com and create an account. I'm not going to walk through that. Email address and a password. It will take you no time at all to do that. Once you've gotten your Trello account, then it will add a little training, just a little tutorial, like a 4 or 5 step tutorial to get you going, which is nice. One of the things that you can do is, once you've got it created, you see along here where it's got templates. So you're not sure how to build out a project, and you don't want to build one from scratch. And I kind of, I kind of hate the platforms. They say, well, you can do anything. Well, I don't even know what I'd like to do with it. So this really gives you some good ideas about what you might do. And I've pulled a couple templates in already, but something that's really popular right now is the work from home daily planner. People don't they're not used to working at home and being responsible for every part of their day with all the other distractions. There is so if we wanted to find the work from home, I've already pulled that one in, so I'm not going to do it again. And then also homeschooling. People have all of a sudden found themselves as homeschoolers, and they were not planning on being homeschool parents. And so now they got to keep their students moving forward so that they can continue with their education. So I'm gonna pop back in here. So the one I'm gonna choose here is, it doesn't matter really, but because all these are templates for me, so I'm gonna choose the project management. I want to change the background. This purple is nice, but I want to change the background to something more beachy. And what's cool is I can just do a quick search, find something on the beach. That looks nice. Now my whole menu is that. And the cool thing is it'll also follow me wherever I go. So when I go to, if I log on to another computer, that's going to stick with me at this template. So right here, where I showed you, or where I changed that background, is the menu. And the menu is obviously going to be a big part of the things that you do for configuring it. So the other powerful thing of Trello is they have all these power-ups. And the power-ups are what allow you to do the things even more than just doing the project management. With the free version, you get one power-up. So like a calendar, like if you wanted to sync your Google Sync or your Google Calendar in there, you could put that in there and add it, and you can get your one power-up. When you pay for the business version, which isn't all that expensive, I think it's $9 a month on average, you get unlimited power-ups. So it's not a bad price. They're making it up on volume. But there's lots of things in here that you can choose. Now, the other thing in this menu is the activity. So it keeps a running log of everything anybody does in the board. And if you're working with a big team, what happens if somebody deletes a card accidentally? Well, you can go back here and find it and when it was deleted, and then you can restore it. Uh, that's one thing that it's got. You don't delete anything in your board, you only archive it. So when you decide you're done with this pending, you archive it. But if you ever needed to pull it back, it's real easy to do. The other part of this menu is, excuse me, the email to board settings. So let's say you've got a PDF in your inbox and it needs to be part of this project. So you can email that to this address that it generates there. If you send an email to that big old long address for that email, it will come, and then you can move that around in the card, which is pretty cool. And then the labels here. So labels, like I said, I like the colors. So I like colors to say the things that I need to do. But if I take a look here, I can see what they were planning on for their labels, but I can also put that in the menu here. So if you have green, I like to do it here. Let me pull up another one. I like mine a little different. So done, stopped, in progress, green. So if you see them in green, then you are done with them. All right. And then, so you have this project. It'd be really good to work with people. So it's not difficult to invite people. So you just go up to the invite person. There we go. Now I've been invited. Now I can hop in this board, and it's pretty fast. The other part, so you've got all these. Let me go back to the project board because it had a lot more stuff in it. But you can get a good idea here of how you could use this. There's what I like to do here on the left-hand side is kind of give instructions about how you're doing a board. Oh, I do that on the homeschool. They've got a nice one. So these classroom rules, that's a really nice thing to do on the part of your board, as well as providing, an index here of the different colors and what they mean. You don't have to do that, but you have the option of doing it. And then checklists are the other big thing. So let me pop back over to that Trello teaching. So you go into checklist here, and then you can choose to clean them, or I mean, check them off, and then they are done. And then you can see the status here of your checklist. So you get how far along you are, 67%. And then you can, when you get done with this, you can archive it. So very cool, very easy to use if you want to drag things around. So let's say you want to move this to doing all these things, drag around real easily, which is really nice. And as far as being straightforward for users, it's pretty good. Okay, so that's Trello, and just not to be confused with Teams. So Trello is a project management um, software. It's not really. It does do collaboration and with your working together, but it is not the big communication tool that you would have like Teams, which is what we're going to talk about now. Okay, so here is a Teams interface. Of course, you have to have an account. And who would use Teams? So Teams was really built around businesses. Now you can use it as a individual. You can share Teams communications with people who are not in a group. So it's not limited to businesses, but it was really built around Office 365. Microsoft intended for Office 365 groups to have a place where they could pull everything together, and that's what this is. So yeah, you do have to have a Microsoft Office 365. Well, you don't have to have an Office 365 an account, but you have to sign up for a Microsoft account to be able to use it, and you can use your existing email. The only problem is one thing to consider if you're going to do that. So if you're going to do that, I would not do that with my company email, because like if I used Adam at sublimecomp.com to sign up for my free Microsoft account, and then my company decided to use Office 365 later, that account is going to be problematic for me because it's going to have to be absorbed into Microsoft one way or another. They're going to have to separate my email, and it gets tricky there. So, okay, so we'll start off here. The activity, it just kind of goes through lists of what you have been doing in Teams. So I'm gonna go to chat. So this is the collaboration part here. You can communicate with your team by clicking on them, and you can also, you know, it keeps a history, and it keeps a history on all of your computers, which is really nice. So that's that. The chat, I mean, we all get chat. So then within Teams, this is the Teams. This is a demo user account, so I don't have a lot of teams in here, but you could have a lot of different teams here. If you're part of a large organization, you could be involved in the IT team, the HR team, whatever different things here, and it helps separate all these chats and that kind of stuff. So when I go into my text here and I chat into here, that goes to, my other techs, and it's all tech related, so they care about it, but not the rest of the world. Where right here, this one's for my whole company, so if I go talk there, I can send that to everybody. And the good thing is all these things are searchable, and it's quick to grab. Okay, and then so now we've got the teams, we've got the chat, we can do files, we can do wikis. I hope you're familiar with a wiki, and it's just a, a way to write up things and share. So the other part is the calendar. So it's really important, especially when you're tied up with Office 365. My account's not tied into Office 365, but I put some events in here so you'd see them in the calendar. It's really good when you're getting ready to schedule events and meetings to have your calendar right there available to you. Okay, then the next thing we've got well, before I do that, I need to show you right here. So if you click these, you can click a meet right now, and you can send somebody a meeting invite. You can just, here, I'll click it, and then join now. And then I can tell others how to get on. So I'm not going to do that now. But then you can also schedule a meeting that will go into your calendar, and those meetings are multimedia where you can have voice, you can have chat, you can have files, you can send SharePoint. It's really slick, all the things that you can do with it. And if you pay for it, then you can also add the phone call portion of it. So I can go in here and create a meeting and I send it to my team, but then I also send it to 2 or 3 vendors who need to be part of this meeting, or outside people that I'm working with, and it will send them a Teams invite that'll have a phone number for them to dial in. So if they're not in Teams, then they can get into the conference call. So that's really slick. It costs a little bit extra. I mean, it's not much, but in order to do that, you got to pay for it, and you got to add that to your subscription. So now I can also make calls within Teams to my team, and then you can make calls to outside, once again, if you have the PBX subscription. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a quick video of a phone call that I did with Dan. I don't like to do things live so I just recorded this yesterday in case there were technical difficulties. I'm going to show you real quickly how to use the Teams interface here. So the first thing I see when I get here is I see the activities, and then I've got these different options to choose from. So for right now, I'm going to call Dan. So I'm going to go down to calls, and then these are recent, but I also have the contacts, the history, and voicemail here. But I'm going to give Dan a call. Hey Dan.
This is Dan.
Hey Dan, it's Adam Bell. All right, so
Hi, Adam.
you've been added to the video now. I'm showing calling from my computer to your computer, and just for clarification, it's not a phone call. This is straight computers. There's no phone numbers involved. But what I want to show now is how we can work on files together. So Dan and I are going to open up the same file, and we have the option of doing that within Teams a couple ways. I'm going to go straight to files here, and we're going to open the file Why Dan Loves Hello Kitty. And then
who doesn't love Hello Kitty?
Who doesn't love Hello Kitty?
Yes. Yes.
So what we've done here is we've opened up the document right in Teams, and Teams is showing as a wrapper, you know, kind of like it has wrapped the application around this particular part of the application. But when I'm typing, Dan is also seeing what I'm doing real time. So with any of the other document management systems, Office like this, as well as Google, we can both collaborate in the same document. But say we don't even have to leave Teams to do that. So Dan, did you see my typing? Yep, and there.
I did. It showed a little blue bar with your initials on it.
Okay, so then now Dan is showing that as well. So one of the other cool things about the wrapper here is the files. And so you saw where we took a look into files, and this shows my recent file activity. It also gives me access into Teams for my group, and then OneDrive. And you can add other cloud storage, but we're not going to do that right now. We're going to go to the SharePoint, because the SharePoint is really where the businesses are working. Hold on, I made that full screen. There you go. So if I go to my Teams and under Text, because that's the user group that I'm using, if I go to the SharePoint files, this shows the SharePoint files that Dan and I can see together. And so if I go into Dan's docs, there once again is why Dan loves Hello Kitty. So this is one way that we can work together. Another way that we can work together is if I have a problem, or if I'm trying to do something on my computer, I can get Dan to connect to my computer and see it. So I'm going to share with Dan my desktop. And I can give him control, or I can let him see it only. So Dan, do you see my desktop?
I do see your desktop. It showed up in my Teams window, and I am able to maximize it, so it takes up my whole screen.
Cool. So Dan and I actually did have to do this yesterday, where we were working with a client, and we weren't exactly sure what we would needed to do, but between the two of us, we figured it out with the help of the vendor of running these applications under PowerShell and figuring it out. So Dan's able to see exactly what's on my screen, and it can go back and forth. I can request to see his screen, and we can work, and we just get a lot more stuff done. All right, that's all I needed, Dan. Thank you.
Absolutely.
See you later.
Bye.
Dan and I picking up and saying hello. So, so moving on. So I did mention the files. So in the files here, so you have your Microsoft Teams files, and they're all there. You can also add your OneDrive files. So the OneDrive files are the files that are specifically yours to use. And then you could also add other cloud storage vendors here as part of your teams, and where you could access those files. Now, I wish that SharePoint showed right here in this list, and that would make the most sense to me if that's where it belonged, since it is files, but it is not there. It is actually in your teams. And so to our group, and I guess there is some logic to it, because the SharePoint files exist here, and the SharePoint files are shared from Microsoft SharePoint to this group. So I guess there's some logic as to why that's there. But to me, I think it also should be there in files, but it's not. So they didn't ask me. So then also here, so the three dots here, there's more apps. So these are more apps that are involved in Teams that have been installed. And I also installed Trello within Teams. So I can then go to, it's not 100% Teams. It does give me kind of some highlights, which is not a bad idea, because if you're working on a project, you only really care about the parts that you need to fix. And if you're working all day in Teams, then you could quickly get in there. So it's like I said, it's an abbreviated version of it. You can see the entire board rather than just your cards, but it's a smaller version. But it is pretty cool that it can bring it in there, and I do like that, because then you can just focus on the things that you need to do. But then there also, while I was messing around in there, I did find something I thought was pretty cool, was this shifts. If you were a manager and you wanted to keep up with time tracking for your group or whatever, this would be a pretty cool thing here. You can settle out your shifts. But there are also plenty of other apps that you can pull into Teams. They will have limited functionality, not 100% like the Teams did there. It had most of its functionality, but it is nice to be able to pull these aspects of these things into the Teams wrapper. So that is what I have got to share today, and I hope that you have a little bit more understanding and overview of what you can do with Trello and Teams, and I'm going to give the floor back to Elizabeth.
All righty. So thank you for that. So what did we learn? We learned what collaboration is. We learned some ways that you can collaborate with your team. We learned about Trello and Microsoft Teams and all the cool things. And again, not all of the things. You can kind of go down a rabbit hole when you go into any of these applications, because there's so many things that they can do. But that was great. Thank you, Adam. I love that you're able to really show us what could be done and how to set that up, even backgrounds and stuff to make it personal. So with that being said, anyone with any questions or comments, maybe about something that was said, or any thing that you all have used maybe in your organizations that you've found beneficial or helpful, or maybe something Adam said that you'd like a little bit more clarification on, please feel free to just you can put that in the chat. And if not, then like I said, hopefully this gave you all some good information as far as just how you could utilize this a little bit better, or maybe even just begin utilizing it in your organization. And with that, I believe that that is all that we've got for today. And again, we thank you all for joining us today. And next week, if I can get back onto my screen here and move, we're gonna show the topics again here. The next week will be telemedicine, and actually have a physician on with us next week to tell us about her experience using telemedicine before and during the pandemic. And then we have an HR expert and benefits expert who's going to talk with us a little bit about cost savings and how to make sure that your telemedicine is covered with insurance plans, and has some really neat stories from both of them about that. So hope to see you all then. And if, like I said, no questions, we're gonna sign off for today, and hope you all stay safe, wash your hands, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody.